Behind the white walls that promised peace, we found a silent kill. The villagers
Behind the white walls that promised peace, we found a silence that could kill. The villagers saw the convent as heaven, a place where angels lived. But inside those walls, the angels forgot how to fly. Every hymn we sang was a mask. Every prayer we whispered was shadowed by fear. The world thought we belonged to God, but the truth is we belonged to something much darker, something that wore holy robes and spoke holy words, yet left scars no one could see. That is why, on a stormy September night, 5 young women climbed into the rain and vanished. They thought we drowned. They thought we ran away with lovers. But the truth, the real truth, is scarier than they could imagine. I still remember the night everything in my life changed. I was just a little girl, too young to carry such heavy pain, yet it found me anyway. My mother's smile, the warmth of her touch, and the way her voice made the world feel safe. All of it vanished in an instant. Death came like a thief, taking her away before I could say goodbye. I thought my family would hold me close and protect me now that she was gone. But I was wrong. Instead of kindness, I faced harshness. Instead of comfort, I received cruelty. The house that once felt like home turned into a place of fear. Every step I took and every breath I made was watched by eyes that held no love for me. My little hands trembled as I tried to do everything right, but no matter how hard I tried, it was never enough. Their voices were sharp, their actions even sharper, and my heart learned what silence meant. I swallowed my tears and hid my cries because there was no one left to hear them. Childhood should have been filled with laughter and dreams, but mine was stolen and replaced with pain that I carried alone. Days turned into years, and silence became my only friend. I carried my pain like a shadow that never left me. I would lie awake at night, listening to the sounds of the house and praying no one would come through my door. I learned to walk on my toes and move quietly, making myself small so I would not be noticed. Being noticed often meant more hurt, more scars, and more tears. I longed for a hug and for someone to tell me that everything would be okay. But no one ever did. So I kept my feelings buried deep inside, locked away where no one could see them. At school, I wore a mask. I smiled when I had to and laughed when people expected it. But inside, I was breaking. No one knew the storm I was carrying. No one knew that when I went home, the world turned dark again. The cruel words, the cold stares, and the endless loneliness became normal to me. I told myself to endure it and be strong, even though I was just a child who needed love. Each day was a battle, and each night reminded me that I was still fighting alone. But deep down, a small voice whispered that one day this would not last forever. Eventually, that small voice grew faint. I reached a point where the weight of everything crushed me. The hurt piled up until it felt unbearable. One evening, I sat alone in the corner of my room, my body weak and my spirit broken. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. I wanted to run away, but I had nowhere to go. The people who were supposed to love me had caused my deepest pain, and I no longer knew where to turn. I asked myself why I was still here. Why did I have to endure so much? What had I done to deserve this? The questions had no answers, only echoes that made the silence heavier. That was the lowest point of my life, the breaking point. It felt as if my heart had been torn apart so many times that it could not be fixed again. I looked at my reflection and did not recognize the girl staring back at me. She looked lost, tired, and hopeless. I thought my story would end there, swallowed by despair. But somehow, in that dark corner, a spark still flickered. It was faint, but it was there. That small spark became my turning point. Healing did not come quickly or easily, but slowly I began to rise. I met people who showed me kindness and reminded me that not everyone was cruel. Their words were soft, their hearts genuine, and for the first time in a long time, I felt seen. I began to believe that maybe I was worthy of love and that my life could be different. It started with little steps, allowing myself to cry, to speak, and to dream again. The pain did not vanish, but it began to loosen its grip on me. I learned that I was stronger than I thought. Each day I survived proved that I could keep going. Each kind word and gentle hand helped to rebuild the broken pieces of my heart. Slowly, I began to write a new story for myself. This story would not be defined by others' cruelty, but by the strength I carried inside. Now, when I look back, I see not just the pain, but the journey. I see a little girl who lost everything, but refused to stay broken. My scars remind me of where I have been, but they do not define who I am. I tell my story not for pity, but for hope. I know there are others out there walking through their darkness, feeling like the world has turned its back on them. To them, I want to say this: you are not alone, and your pain does not have to be the end of your story. I once thought my life was over before it truly began, but now I know it was just the beginning of a different path, a path of survival, healing, and becoming whole again. Though I carry the memories of what I went through, I also carry the strength that came from it. My voice is no longer silent, my tears are no longer hidden. I stand here today as proof that even the most broken soul can find light again.